Sometimes the scariest thing in a horror short, well, that's not monster. It's the performance. In Blink, Candice Palladino delivered a role so intense, it's been stuck in my head for about a month. And she's the reason we're all here today, introducing me to the filmmakers behind it. Welcome to a special bonus 100 Things, where I've got a double feature. The director and writer duo behind some of the UK's most inventive short horror films. We've got Geoff Harmer and Peter Hearn.
Hello.
Hi. Together and separately, they've woven worlds around where band members mutate, static hums with menace, and the screen itself seems to glitch. From Dead Air to Blink, Hosticide to Scrawl, their work blends tension, mischief, and visuals designed to keep you awake at night. In this episode, we're going to dig into creative friction, how they balance the story versus spectacle, what each of them brings to the table, and why horror still has the power to wake both of them up in the dead of the night. Geoff, Peter, thank you for being here. Let's step into the darkness. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking some time out and
no worries.
to talk to me, someone that doesn't know anything about film, but just knows he bloody likes film. I think that's probably the key thing to take away.
Absolutely. You've got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Look, you're filmmakers. I got a B-Tech in filmmaking. What more do you need?
Got more than me.
Yeah, but I ain't made any decent films, so there's potato. I guess we should start at the beginning, kind of your origins. How did each of you get into the industry, and what first drove you into filmmaking?
Who do you want to go first? Pete?
You just
Pete.
fire away.
Geoff, you're older. You go first.
All right, only just. So I got into it because of my dad, really. So when I was about 6, I would say, he put on a Super 8 cine film that he'd made called Fairies. And it was just silly things of like people walking behind a tree where they'd stop the camera and another person walk out the other side. And as a very impressionable young boy, that just blew my mind. Mm-hmm. And then my dad bought some rolls of film, and then we started making our own little animations, and it just kind of grew from there. That's where I got into it.
The old George Millay classic, isn't it? That's the stop the film, start the film when something else is somewhere. Oh, brilliant! That's great. Okay, what about yourself, Peter?
So in the early 90s, I was hanging around with some film school friends of mine who have mostly kind of moved into games now, but there were a bunch of us that kind of were hanging around together, and I kind of wanted to be Bill Paxton. I wanted to die in everything because I was an actor at the time. And I like Bill Paxton, so I wanted to die in everything because that's all he did at that time. I mean, I was just hanging around with them for a while, and then I was doing a drama course, and one of the guys there wanted to make a film, wrote a script. I thought the script was terrible, so I rewrote it, and then he went, "Oh, I'm going to direct it." I went, "Are you?" I think I'm going to direct it. So I ended up directing this film that I don't know. I think my ego ran away with me at the time, and Geoff would probably agree that it still does. But, and that's kind of where I started. So I started by kind of making a film that I shouldn't have really been making. Someone else should have been making it. I'd always written, and it kind of everything kind of fell into place. And then I just kind of wrote and wanted to direct everything I wrote, or rather, nobody else wanted to work with me. So I just had to direct out of necessity because my ideas were a bit too weird and nobody wanted to do anything with them. So, yeah.
You literally forced your way into the industry.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I kind of, I just, moving on to Dead Air, we'll have a similar kind of story where things happened. Anyway.
You say that your ideas were a little bit too out there. who were they like? Who was your inspiration?
Oh
for
gosh.
crazy ideas?
Well, I think the first film was very influenced by Tarantino at that time, because it was like, I think it was like, 94 or 95, something like that. So it was kind of like quite drug dealy, gangstery type stuff. But then I really got into indie comedy, and stuff like Jim Jarmusch and Shane Meadows and people like that. And like the first couple of films that I did were, kind of feature length films that I worked on were very kind of indie, quirky comedy. And yeah, I mean, I just wrote weird characters that actors seem to like playing, but the general audience didn't necessarily like, because it was a bit too it was just a little bit too odd, I guess.
Yeah. And it's funny you should mention Shane Meadows, because for me Shane Meadows is really important, because until the mid-90s nobody sounded like what I sound like, or certainly what I sounded like in the 90s, being from Nottingham. So there was nobody sounded like us, for good reason, unless you're on a Tunes advert asking for 2 tickets to Nottingham, that kind of thing. So references for nobody, that. So Geoff, what's your version of when you two met and began this, I guess, football analogy, Brian Clough, Peter Taylor partnership?
So I met Pete at a place called Face TV. It's not there anymore. It was a sort of local broadcast TV station, but they were like a corporate video house as well. I think, Pete, you were doing like the just finishing off Scroll.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't remember what I was doing at the time. I think I'd finished was Addict. That's a different story. And then we sort of met, sort of worked, realized that we had a lot in common. So we used to meet up down Starbucks. And then getting onto the dead air element was a friend of mine worked at an airfield, and he had this beautiful Russian biplane, massive thing that was on the airfield. And he said, "Look, do you want to make a film in that?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You can make a film in it. We'll take you up in the air. We'll fly. We'll do all the things you need to do on one provision, that you make it a zombie movie."
Okay.
So, and then I obviously met up with Pete and said, "Right, Pete, we need to make a zombie movie. Would you write it?" I said, "Here's my idea. And Pete, you take over at this point."
So I mean, this was my dream come true. So, someone actually asking me to write for them, rather than it being me writing and then doing it myself. So I went yes, and I took away Geoff's idea, and I went, I don't know what to do with this, because again, whether it was ego or whether it was just what I was watching at the time, I kind of thought, well, how is this going to happen on this plane? Because it was what was it, Geoff? It was like a Russian.
Yeah, it was quite. Yeah, it wasn't. There was about room for about 10 people inside.
Yeah,
something like that.
And Geoff had quite an elaborate kind of. I think they were like quite disparate people going somewhere, and then there was like a zombie kind of outbreak. But I was like, I don't know how to write this. So I started to think, who would be on a plane, in terms of, how could you kind of have those dynamics, and I kind of went through loads of things, and then I thought, well, what about a band going to a gig, and then something happens on that plane, which causes mayhem and everything. And I'd been watching Critters. I was going through my Critters phase at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you had like Critters on this plane with a band that I don't think at the time they were a punk band. They were a band.
Yeah, just a band.
Yeah. And we kind of, well, I wrote down something and I sent it to Geoff, and I was like, what about this? And it was like radio silence. I was like, oh no, I've messed up here. But then I think you kind of, because we got used to the fact that that I would write massive long text messages or messages on the phone, and then Geoff would just put thumbs up, and that was pretty much what
Still
it was.
do.
You'll do, Joel. Yeah,
what a collaborative story.
And yeah, I think it was me kind of going, he doesn't like it, he doesn't like it, he doesn't like it, and then we kind of got together, and you went, actually, this could work, and then we just went back and forth, and we tried different things out. It was a male band, I think, initially.
Yeah.
And then we went, well, why couldn't it be a female? I think it was a male and female band.
Yeah, it was 2 of each.
And then it went completely female. And I think the only thing that kind of happened as we were writing, and again, I think this is probably where, like previous, where I said about kind of taking over from this guy who had written a script. I kind of wanted I kind of get, everything gets a bit too ambitious. Even if I don't want it to get ambitious, it gets ambitious. So I was like, yeah, we're going to have this and this, and we're going to have puppets. And Geoff's like, we don't know any puppeteers. And I went, I know a puppeteer. I didn't know a puppeteer, but it was kind of like that. And then we did actually find a puppeteer who was the one that I had in my mind, but I hadn't actually, neither of us had approached him at that point in time. But yeah, it just kind of went crazy. And then all of a sudden Geoff went, yeah, this isn't going to work on that plane. So we had to kind of scale up everything, didn't we? Really?
We did, yeah. And it was lucky that we met the guys at a studio that's actually literally like a 10-minute drive from my house, called Black Hanger Studios. They've shot like some of the Star Wars there, and Doctor Who, and loads of other bits and bobs. And they said, hey, we've got a plane on our forecourt. I'll do your mates rates. So, and the rest is history. But up to that point, getting back to where Pete was saying that scripts get more and more elaborate, it literally was like that. Every draft I'd read, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm like, Jesus, we can't film it on the Russian plane anymore. That's just out the window. And then I was really stumped, and we were trying to work out where we could shoot it, and then just the stars aligned. It was really, really weird that it all just happened, and we managed to get the plane that we needed, as well as the cockpit, because another, like a 5-10 minute drive from where Black Hanger Studios is, there is a cafe, and it has half of a plane just out the back, and then the guy runs a fear of flying course, and then you go inside, and the cockpit is completely intact. Wow. So we were like, geez. So we managed to, within such a close distance of each other, managed to film everything we needed.
That's fantastic.
It's just very good.
Again, sometimes, as you say, the stars align, things just come together. And on the subject of the plane, what's it like? What's the challenge of making a film in a confined space like that?
God, everything. It was hot. We filled it with smoke. I kept asking for more smoke. It was because we had to black out all the windows because it was set at night. So it was sort of, you never really saw daylight. You had all these cables running under all the seats, because the puppeteers they had to have a monitor on their chest. So we had to have all that cabled in for them. And we had to have space for people to have teas and coffees at one end. And it was what we had, I think on the busiest day, we had about 40 people on set. So, so it was pretty intense.
Yeah. The other thing, the thing that was quite nice for me was, because I was on the set really as just the writer producer, I just walked around and ate sandwiches and things. But the plane had been submerged in water for a previous shoot, which was the
the Hudson River crash.
Yeah, it was like,
Oh wow!
it was used for that. So it was smelling of mold. It was full of mold, and we had at least 2 people feel really ill from it, didn't we?
Yeah, it was.
We were kind of working.
That's in keeping with the feel of the movie, though.
Never thought of it like that at the time.
Method, you know.
Yeah,
the actors had a problem with that. Come on, guys.
Yeah. But the great thing was, go on.
No, you go.
I said the great thing was at Black Hanger, they had so many facilities that they let us use. So they had like a makeup room that we could use. We had an office. We had like a kitchen and breakout space for people to go and have something to eat, drink, and just get away from everything. There was like lots of sofas everywhere, and it was all. That just couldn't have been nicer. I think that was a really nice experience.
Yeah. And is that something that you as filmmakers never really usually get the opportunity to experience?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as an independent filmmaker, you don't tend to go to studios. No. We tend to, shoot in people's houses or in the street or what have you. So to have that opportunity to be in a studio, although we weren't in the actual hangar, which is where like Star Wars and all that stuff was made, we were in the other areas and in the parking lot. So, but we were still, you still felt like this was a studio production, and it just felt really good.
Yeah, it's one of John, my co-host, has messaged me a few times over the past week, and he's gone, "I've just watched Dead Air again. It's great, isn't it?" I was like, "Yes, it's fantastic.
Awesome.
It's a lot of fun." So looking at your other work, I think probably, Peter, if we're talking about Blink, it's relies heavily on what we don't see more than anything else.
Yeah.
How do you as a writer decide how much we reveal in such a, pardon the expression, such a small kind of one-shot film, really?
Yeah. Well, that film came out of, there was a competition that it was around COVID time, and it was I think it was born out of the experience of Jed
Shepherd.
Yeah, Jed Shepherd and those guys making Host, and so they were looking for Zoom related kind of films, and and we just had that conversation, about kind of just making something, and I could just sound like a moany old sod, but I really don't like Zoom films. I really don't. I'm not a massive found footage fan either. I mean, that's just me, and because I find them a little bit ridiculous. So I kind of wanted to lean into the even more ridiculous with ours, and have it. Essentially my worst nightmare is this kind of stuff where I can see my own face and whatever. So I kind of wanted it to be, because we were all on Zoom, we were all doing that kind of stuff, that there was this character that just couldn't get off it for whatever reason, and we knew we didn't have the budget to kind of have a creature or whatever, so we just thought, well, when it's kind of having that, you've only got like, I don't know, a minute left or whatever, and it starts blinking at you. That was kind of really the way that I kind of went into it, and just thought, well, what if that is a kind of an entity of some kind, and it kind of just went from there. And I think it probably only took me about half an hour to write. Probably feels like it too, but it was really quite a short kind of and I don't think we did that many rewrites on it. I think the girls kind of had a little bit of a play with it when we kind of actually filmed it, but the script itself didn't really take that long, and I can't remember now because it's my brain's dead, but you didn't really have that many notes for it. I was like, think, in my brain, I'm going, do you
Yeah.
rewrite it? But you're like, no, it's brilliant. Let's do it. So we kind of did it.
Does happen, you know.
I've kind of rambled, not really answered your question.
No, absolutely, you have.
But yeah, it was just sometimes you have those ideas that just all of a sudden kind of just go bleh, and you're off to the races. Fright Zoo was very much the same kind of thing. When we decided to kind of turn a feature length script into like lots of individual episodes, it was like very easy to write, and then very, very not
too easy. Too easy to write.
Yeah, especially when we have to look at filming like almost 46 episodes or something.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, with Blink, it was a weird way to film because we've never done that before.
No.
You directed over
Zoom.
It was over Zoom.
Oh, wow.
So the two actresses that we had, obviously Candice and Penny, they had their other halves helping them their end, kind of to set up stuff and to yank people off screen and all of that stuff. So it was literally shot in a hi, we're in our house, you're in your house, and we went from there.
So though I was directing via Zoom, they actually filmed on DSLRs.
Right.
So they had one of those, above their monitor.
Yeah.
So they could see us. So we were all there talking to them and stuff. And then each one had a better camera, rather than just a webcam.
Yeah.
So, and then they just sent me all that footage. And then it was just a case of just syncing it and editing, really.
So is that the future of directing, doing it via Zoom, Geoff?
No. That was born out of necessity. I would no, definitely not. I mean, you can have conversations and you can practice and all the rest of it over Zoom. That's fine for a little bit, but you need to be there. You need to be with them, and I think everyone needs that.
And it was really weird that at that point we hadn't met Candice in real life. We literally knew her through via Twitter, and then kind of I introduced her to Geoff, and we didn't meet up for about 2 years after we'd shot. It was something weird like that, wasn't it? It was and we didn't meet in real life until we showed Blink at Horror on Sea.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Award-winning Blink, that is, isn't it? Award-winning movie.
I don't know if it won an award.
We'll go with that. Yes.
Yes.
I was under the impression Candice had won an award for Blink.
Oh well, she may well have.
Oh no, she did. You're right. No, she did.
Yeah.
It is award-winning.
Best West Midlands actor without the accent, of course.
Hang on. I'll let you know exactly what it was. I've got it written down. Anyway, you carry on amongst yourselves.
Right.
What did she win? I can't remember.
Hang on. She won Best Actress at the SoCo Film Festival. There you go.
Fantastic. There you go. So,
in 2021.
An award by association.
There you go.
Geoff, as a director, have you ever changed anything in the heat of production that completely blindsided maybe the actors, or I don't know, maybe a writer that may have written something completely different for you?
I don't know. I know that we've had disagreements on Virus Detected, where I've changed something in post. I don't know if we massively have disagreed. I know when we were shooting Dead Air, we had to make some big changes because we were a bit behind.
Yeah.
And then, but that all made sense, the changes we made at the time. I can't remember making changes on the day that were dramatic enough to blindside anyone. I try and stick to the script as best I can. The only time we might make a change is if, like with Dead Air, we were running a little bit behind, and with Dead Air we only had 5 days to shoot in the actual the main plane. So, and that included setting up and breaking down. So we were on the clock, and also we weren't allowed. We had to be off the premises by like 8 p.m. every night. So we were pushing all the time. So we were in there at like 8 a.m. because that's the earliest we could get onto the plane, and then we were kicked out at 8 p.m.
Wow.
So that was tough. But I think most changes that I ever do probably end up in post rather than actually on the day.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was smiling there because of just because I like winding Geoff up as well. But in terms of the horror stories that you hear from kind of writers, who work with directors, and then the directors change everything. Geoff has never been like that. Very, very collaborative, kind of asking the question, what do you mean by this, and should we, I thought about this. What do you think of this? And sometimes, because we all want to be in charge, you kind of go for about 5 minutes, and then you go, actually, that makes sense. And I think every kind of almost every Geoff, almost every kind of decision, not decision. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, my brain's gone. But everything that kind of Geoff has kind of like suggested. That was the word, suggestions.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
Decision, was that the word?
I don't know. I can't.
Doesn't matter. Move on.
But every time Geoff had said, suggested something. What if we thought this? And I'd go away and kind of go, it doesn't really work. But it would actually make me look at the script a little bit more and go, oh, actually, what if we did this? And then I'd send that to Geoff, and he'd go, actually, that works really well. Or it was that kind of nice collaboration that goes on. To
we try and fix everything before we actually start to film, so we get to a point that we're both happy.
Yeah.
So,
and I think because of the way that we kind of work when we're on the set, unless Geoff kind of needs my input, I will kind of step back and let him, and I'll seethe slightly in the background.
He's very good at holding up scythes.
Absolutely. But I mean, it's a weird, when you've kind of directed for, I don't know how many years I directed for, 10 or so years, 15 years possibly, to then kind of just go, I'm not that fussed about doing that anymore. Someone else can do it. In the back of your mind, you're kind of going, I would possibly do it a different way. But I think that's the nature of everything. I think, if you know everything, not I know everything, but if you're like editing wise, Geoff and I both edit, directing wise, Geoff is certainly gonna keep doing that. I can't be bothered. And writing wise, we kind of both, we both write our own stuff and have written our own stuff. And again, producing, you kind of have those. You have those different ways of wanting to do things, and it's just a case of if you like the guy you're working with, or the girl that you're working with, or whoever, you're gonna go, all right, we'll go with your one for that one, but we'll go with mine for this, or whatever.
Yeah.
So this one's probably for both of you. My opinion, one of the best British films of the past 20 years is easily Shaun of the Dead. Edgar Wright's the king of references in his films and things like that. Have you thrown any in-jokes or Easter eggs into your films that people don't tend to get, or do you try and avoid that because it's a bit cliche?
Should I start?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So in every script I write, almost every script, there is a character called Peterson.
Right.
that's been for a good 25 years or 26 years. There was a character in my first feature called Pete Peterson, but now there is a Peterson somewhere in all of the scripts. I think I might be wrong, but I think one of the Blink characters might have been a Peterson. I know we only went by we went by
just couldn't get on Missy, didn't we?
Yeah. But in like the original script, I think they might have even both been Petersons, just because why not?
Okay.
And for me, it's Dave. I try and squeeze in a Dave in everything, so someone has to be called Dave. So like when we shot Dead Air, it was like I realised that we didn't have a Dave, and then we were at a Comic-Con in Wales doing a panel about Dead Air before we even shot it. It was really, really kind of awesome. And I was talking to Stuart Bannerman, who was the guy who was hosting the panel. And I sort of told him that we always have a Dave, but we haven't got one in this. And he suggested, why don't we call the little critters, these guys here, why don't we call them Dave? And so they then became Daves. So, yeah. And the reason the Dave thing come about, when I was young playing Metal Gear Solid, if you remember that game on the first PlayStation, I always remember that moment at the end where you've just played this incredible game, and then right at the end he saves the girl, sort of thing, and he's telling her his real name. He says, it's like Solid Snake. It's right, he's Solid Snake, and he goes, yeah, the name's Dave, and that hit me so much. I just burst out laughing. I thought I almost cried. Like, I've been playing Solid Snake for so long just to know he's called Dave.
This phenomenally cinematic game where you even have to change the controller into another port, which unheard of, absolutely unheard of. Everything's great. Everything looks better than anything's ever looked, and he's called Dave. I mean, it's worth throwing the disc out the window, isn't it? Yeah.
So because of that and my emotional connection to that, I thought, right. So I just have Dave and everything. So yeah.
Okay.
Although Gal and Missy, there's no Daves in.
Well, their real names are Dave, so
yeah,
they just changed it for Zoom.
Just Zoom, yeah.
Okay.
Dave Peterson.
There you go. That's how you fit him in. That's how you do it. So one final question, really. I mean, I kind of know this because you were good enough to share something with me. But what have you got coming up that you're working on at the minute that our viewers can look forward to?
Fright Seers. So we've shot 8 episodes of Fright Seers. None of them are out. We screened one at Horror on Sea in January with Annabella Rich and Andrew.
With me? Was that episode 4?
Yes, yeah. I call it episode 4 because it was the 4th script in that series. But I think when it comes out, it'll just be the first episode of that. Is that right, Pete? We're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, all of those ones, the Grand one and the other 9, they're all very standalone.
Yeah.
It was just as after we wrote those, I got more ambitious and just wrote tons.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then I went, here you go, Geoff. You're like, we can't do this.
But we're doing it though, right? So we've done, as I said, we shot 8 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And the first, we've got the trailer coming out soon on the Fright Seers channel. That's uploaded, right, Pete? Just to let you know. And then we'll start releasing some of the episodes gradually whilst we're planning on the next one.
Okay.
But yeah, we've got, I mean, in terms of what it is, it's it started out as a feature script, and then we kind of turned it into like web series kind of thing about these essentially about these women that can see, and interact with ghosts. We were kind of saying initially it was like Agatha Christie with ghosts, and some of it is, some of it isn't. It's quite silly. It's quite inspired by there was a film called Extraordinary that we both kind of were massive fans of, with very small kind of hauntings, and it was kind of inspired a bit by that. But as I wrote, as I carried on writing stuff, Geoff had a massive idea that he talked to me about years ago, saying that he wanted one where there was where death kind of basically turned up too early, and it was almost like a romantic comedy, wasn't it, with this girl that he thought was gonna die and she didn't, and they kind of fell in love, and that kind of inspired me to go, well, let's stick that character in there. And those are two of the ones that we've kind of shot so far, just to play with the death puppet. It's not really a puppet, is it? It's like a suit, like a 7-foot death suit, which a guy called Doug Danes, who creates wonderful kind of props, worked on for us. He worked on Dead Air. He did the miniature stuff, miniature plane and stuff for Dead Air. I mean, it's that ambition, even though the shorts are quite small scale. There's kind of like an ambition in terms of, right, let's go a bit fantastical, let's try something else. Candice is in 10 of them, where she is essentially in a haunted house, where the haunted house actually wants to leave, rather than she can't leave because she's agoraphobic, so the house kind of wants to leave. We need the time to get around to filming them all, but we're working through them. Yeah,
fantastic. So where can our viewers find those? If there's one up already, we want to point them in the direction of that.
So it will be on Frightseers YouTube channel. I think it is just Frightseers, isn't it, Geoff?
I think so. I was just going to put it up.
Find a link and I will put it in the show notes.
The channel. Just looking at it on
if I can do my YouTube very well, it will be somewhere on this screen right now. A link to that. But I'm not.
It was just Frightseers, I believe.
It is just Frightseers.
And
YouTube.com/@Frightseers.
Brilliant, fantastic.
That's where they'll be.
Lovely stuff. So that's a wrap on today's bonus 100 things. Huge thanks to Geoff and Pete for joining me, pulling back the curtain on their world of chaos, glitches, and gremlins. If you want to keep up to date on any of their other work, well, gentlemen, now's your time. Promote yourselves. Where can they find you?
Geoff.
So I've got a website called fraught.net, FRAUGHT.net. But you'll find me on Instagram. Is probably the thing that I use the most. So Fraught UK. I did just want Fraught, but someone else nicked that. So I'm on Facebook. I am on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, but I barely use it these days because there's too much hatred on there. And I'm on.
That was about a year ago. I just don't care anymore.
No, I just think life's better without it, to be honest. And I'm on Blue Sky, but I barely use that either. But I'd say Instagram is probably the one for me.
Fantastic.
And I'm on pretty much everything, but also pretty much not on everything. At Hearnesque, so that's Hearn, HEARN ESQUE, and that's kind of across the board. But then we've also got Frightseers at Frightseers on Instagram. So whenever we do any kind of uploading, that goes onto the Instagram. But on my social media nowadays, mostly it's my dog or my cat. Or my dog and my cat. So
hey, that's what the people want.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Let's be honest. Fantastic. So thanks again, and to everyone watching, remember, subscribe, share, and keep the lights on tonight, because you don't know what's going to be waiting in the dark.